We've got Jordan Spieth, who obviously lost in a playoff just the other night in Houston, but he's won already at the Valspar. We've got Jimmy Walker, who's already won a couple of times on tour this year. Dustin Johnson won the WGC Cadillac. Matt Every won at Bay Hill. You know, we've got a lot of players, JB Holmes, who are playing well, and they have the game for Augusta, don't they? They're big hitters. Jordan Spieth, perhaps not necessarily, but he showed last year that he can contend. And obviously we have to talk first probably about the defending champion, Bubba Watson. 2 Masters wins in the last 3 years. And it seems that when Bubba clicks on Augusta National, he's almost unplayable.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, interesting. I read something on Twitter last night about Phil Mickelson and talking about how reactive he needed to be in major championships and how much he needed to get away from technical thoughts and things. And that really epitomizes Bubba's game, you know, at the Masters. He's so creative. You know, we've talked about this big kind of power fade that he hits around the corners and things, but being able to control his trajectory into the greens, the shape that the iron shots are coming in, and you know, and then being a pretty streaky putter as well. I mean, Bubba's definitely one to look out for. Not the best each way bet, as you've said, Robbie. He's either won or he hasn't done much at all. So, you know, again, somebody that you're going to have to keep a close eye on.
Augusta seems tailor-made for those big-hitting left-handers. So many have won. Phil Mickelson, Mike Weir, not a big hitter, but certainly he was I guess the vanguard of left-handers in 2003. Phil Mickelson then won 3 titles between 2004 and 2010, and now Bubba seems to have taken up that left-hander's baton with 2 titles in the last 3 years. Let's look elsewhere. Let's look at some of the obvious contenders, JP. We've got Jason Day, who's also been a winner this year on tour. We've got the Farmers Insurance. We've got Adam Scott, who won in 2013, has a great record at Augusta, has had some issues with the putter, but certainly not someone that can be discounted. Obviously, as we mentioned, Jordan Spieth, Dustin Johnson, Jimmy Walker, I know you like him. Who else? What other names in the frame? And maybe if you could just discuss the chances of those guys.
Well, I think, you know, it was interesting to hear Claude Harmon talk on the weekend about the fact that when Tiger was at his prime, there really were only 5 or 6 guys who even hit the golf ball close to as far as he did. And it was interesting thinking back to the years where, you know, if Phil Mickelson, Vijay Singh, Ernie Els, Tiger Woods weren't really at the top of the leaderboard, we were quite surprised. Now when we do these shows, we're probably talking about 15, 20, maybe even 25 players. And the reason for that is all these guys are so fit now, all these guys are so strong. They've got the right golf clubs in their hands, and they're all hitting the golf ball so far that they're really starting to position themselves as a much more of a spread of a field who can win. I really like Jimmy Walker this year. I think the 2 wins that he's had have shown that he can really go away from a field. He's got an ideal ball flight. He's got someone in Butch Harmon who understands how to nurture players into a mindset that they can go to Augusta and win. You know, I like Phil. Phil's led the birdies made at the Houston Open, so Phil's running into a little bit of form as well. Another one of Butch's guys. Jordan Spieth quietly gets stronger and better. You know, he's only 21 years old or coming 22 years old, but you know, again, another young man who's really setting himself out for a long career. So certainly those 3, you know, from the bunch that you mentioned, I really like those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think you really got to look at form when it comes to Augusta. It's such a horses for courses kind of course, isn't it? I mean, You've got guys that have done so well there in the past. I know we talked about those very traditional leaderboards where you always saw the same names. And I know the landscape of golf is changing, but you still have to factor in previous form at Augusta. And that's why I feel like it's hard to really back the likes of Henrik Stenson, who's got a best finish of tied 16th at the Masters. You know, very hard to back someone like Martin Kaymer, who won the US Open last year, but hasn't really done much since that massive capitulation in Abu Dhabi and really has no prior form on the course. Dustin Johnson, as good as his game seems for Augusta, and as long as he hits the ball, he's never broken into the top 10. And I think you need someone who's got that prior experience. It's not an easy course to just go in, turn up with no previous form and to do well on, is it?
No, I mean, you know, I think there's something to be said for some flamboyance and some freedom at Augusta, but if you have any carelessness whatsoever, if you have any carelessness with your short game, your pitching, your distance control, the place is going to find you out. Augusta just presents a challenge that, you know, some guys can do it and some guys can't.